Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namasami. So I've been asked to discourse on breathing, mindfulness of breathing, and someone brought this title up, Standing Like a Tree, Breathing Like a Buddha, with the recognition that often when I teach mindfulness of breathing, I'd use standing meditations, and I've incorporated certain degrees of system called Qigong, which you're probably familiar with, the Chinese traditions, and which can be used in a range of ways for healing, for martial arts, but I essentially use it as a way of steadying energy and also giving people a more complete experience, direct experience of the energy system in their body and how this connects to their breathing. I found this a very helpful connection. That is, breathing as an energy. No, it's not just the air, which is the breath, this movement of air and the sensations that arise as the air touches the nostrils or the pressure of the air pushes the chest open. That's certainly part of it. But also the reason why we breathe in the first place, why the body breathes, is to get some energy. So if you run, your breathing speeds up. And if you calm down, your breathing slows down. If you lie down to sleep, your breathing quietens down. So it's very much associated with moderating the bodily energy. We might also notice that when we're emotionally excited or angry, it changes our breathing. And certainly when we meditate and become calmer, the breathing is very quiet and soft. So this breathing then seems to affect both the body and the mind. And so this to me is the link which makes mindfulness of breathing, gives it a very realistic reference to a quality that does both affect, calm, steady, refresh and regenerate our bodily experience and give the mind a pleasant abiding place to attend to, and also it moderates and checks our emotional life, by which I don't just mean the emotions themselves, but the energy of emotion, whether one's stirred up, passionate, agitated, very jumpy energy, when your mind jumps from this to that. All this, we call this the emotional, the energy of chitta, the energy of the awareness, the chitta, the heart. So when one looks at the life of the Buddha and in his teachings on Anapanasati, then we're caused to consider this in general and in detail. So as we know, the Buddha, before he was enlightened, he began to contemplate aging, sickness, death, and therefore this is the problem of the body. Aging, sickness, death, this body dies, sickens. So there's a sense of real world weariness of the body, physicality, corporeal realm, distaste for it. And so in accordance with that inclination, he took up an ascetic form of life, giving up home, family, and associated with other people of ascetic dispositions, people who would fast or limit their food or not cut their hair or not wash their bodies, not cut their nails, smear their bodies with ash, to go through these physical austerities in order to liberate themselves from the body, from the fleshly concerns of the body. The idea being, if you were able to suppress the body, then the mind or the soul or the Atman would escape, get out of it. We'd be able to suppress it and get out of that. And he was very determined, and apparently he could do this rather well. And he had a couple of teachers, Alara Kalama and Uddaka Ramaputta, who were leading teachers in their own right in those days, and he studied under them. And through studying under them, he was able to bring his mind, his awareness to these formless states, they called arupa, things such as sphere of nothingness, and the sphere of infinite consciousness, and the sphere of neither perception or non-perception. You don't really have to understand these right now anyway, because they're probably not big issues for you. But they're really very refined mental states where the experience of body isn't there. And the Buddha, as a bodhisattva, as an unaccomplished aspirant, managed to master these to a high degree, to such an extent that his teachers said, "Oh, you're the same level as I am." And he still wasn't satisfied, because he go into these states, and he came back to from these very refined states, he came back to this ordinary bodily existence. He says, "Well, so I'm back here again. I haven't really solved this. I've just gone out, but I've come back to this again." And then he began starving himself till he was barely eating anything at all. He became extremely emaciated, and even suppressing his breath according to his own descriptions. He said, "Well, if I try and even stop breathing in and out," till he said the pain in my body was so great, and my body was so skinny, and the heart was pumping, but I still managed this suppression of the breathing. He said, "Nobody could have done more than I have done to try and suppress this bodily experience." Physically, food, even down to breathing, try to suppress that. And he said, "And still, I'm still not. I feel I have not realized my goal, the deathless." And then he reviewed, and of course there's different stories of that. One was that the Sujata, the young village girl, offered him some milk rice, and he gained a little bit more health and vitality. And certainly the general theme is he returned to something more natural rather than contrived. And in his story, his account, he says, "I remember when I was just a young boy, I was sitting under the shade of a tree. It's cool in the heat of the day, and I could see my father ploughing the field. He must have felt comfortable, reassured. His father's out there, sitting under the shade of a tree. Sitting quite peaceful, quite secluded, not bothered with sensory distractions. And I was just feeling this breathing in, breathing out. It's calm, peaceful." So this is nothing wrong with this. This isn't low, this isn't ignoble, this isn't bound with passion, it's just breathing in, breathing out. Maybe this is a way. So he picked up the theme. And then he through this theme picked this up, and according to his account, this was the path to his awakening. Purified the mind of sensuality, and also of its opposite, ascetic denial. And these are the two extremes that he elucidated to his first disciples as being, these are the two wrong extremes. One is indulgence in the senses, one is suppression or asceticism. So this middle way is more like natural, a natural, peaceful, moderate quality. This is the epitome of Buddha's practices, and essentially natural like a tree growing. something that grows by itself, is not induced by the mind, is not an opinion, not a view, not a belief, not a passion. So it's not something we believe in or hold dogmatically with our dogmatic mind. It's not something that stirs up passion, sensual mind. It's not emotionally, excited or depressed. It's level. So this is the nature. It's not that which is imposed upon by the mental conditioning. This is the essence of it. It's not a quality that has been created by the mind. It's not a quality that has been subject to the mind. It's not a quality that has been moderated through opinions, through views, through beliefs, through passions, through aversion, through ideology. It's just something that stands clear of that, and we can bring our attention onto that, this quality. So it's in a way, it's innately has a certain freedom from mental disposition, mental obsession, mental proclivities. So this, in a way, is the entry into liberating from mental proclivities, mental passions, mental grips, mental views, called asava, hindrances, clinging. All this is not of the body, it's of the mind. The problem is not the body, the problem is the mind. Yeah. So all this time he was really dealing with the wrong thing. Yeah. Not really dealing directly with the mind. So, and breathing happens independently of the mind. That is, whether you're good or bad, you breathe. Whether you're a murderer or a saint, you breathe. Whether you're drunk or stone cold sober, you breathe. Whether you're a mystic in a trance or just driving your car to work, you breathe. Breathing happens. It's a gift. It's a given. It's a natural gift. Yeah? In some ways, essentially, it stands independently of one's mental, emotional, even ethical inclinations. Now these inclinations are, this is in the dependent origination, ignorance. And ignorance, as it acts, as it becomes active, generates afflictive sankhara formations. The word is not so easy to translate, but we know the experience. Something concocts. Sankhara has the sense of something slightly artificial that's being concocted, created. And when there is ignorance, these concoctions carry the delusions and the wrong views. They activate them, so our attention, our mental attention, becomes absorbed in those confusions, beliefs, views, vipalasas, distortions. So again, just to rehearse once again, our Buddhist practice is how do we liberate from those qualities? How do we liberate our mind, our awareness from these obsessive clouds, obscurations, ignorance, obsessions? Well, the theme is if you apply your mind to something that can help to, is not obsessed with these, gradually the mind will drop, will come out, like you're pulling something out of a stuck state, by giving it something to hold on to that is not stuck or less stuck. Yeah? And for this purpose we attend to mindfulness of breathing, and we sustain mindfulness, we keep attending to it, mindfulness of breathing. So this is the general perspective. Of course, mindfulness of breathing isn't the only thing to cultivate, but it is. It's often seen as essential for meditation. And I imagine those of you who practice meditation, the degree to which you practice, you'll all come back. You'll come down. You'll come to this, and try to practice with this. Now, if we look at the way the Buddha expressed, or most coherently and most fully gave his teachings on mindfulness of breathing, we'll see there are, as again, if you've studied this, you'll see there are certain what are called clusters of fore or tetrads, which refer to, first of all, the more bodily aspect of the breathing, and the second tetrad refers more to the mental activations that occur, and the third tetrad refers to the more purified mind, and the fourth tetrad refers to the wisdom of reviewing this. So the first three tetrads deal mostly with moderating, calming, steadying the mind from its obsessive energies, its dullness, its raging, its unsteadiness, its restlessness. And as you know, in your meditation, this is often what you're dealing with, just these energies. The energies may, of course, have topics, so you may have particular things we think about, particular topics we think about that cause us concern or that excite us, but with those there's also an energy that keeps them moving fast or spins them round. Don't you experience that sense of you're either spinning or jumping or feeling completely flat and heavy? Now that quality is energy. And so if we're thinking about calming, we're referring to energy. Energy is that which moves, therefore it can be calmed. If we're feeling dull, energy can rise. And ideally, the process of calming is to establish a steady state energy. In the steady state energy, we can review more clearly and comprehensively the factors of mind as they're arising and see clearly their nature. Now, this is the process of samatha and vipassana, how these two limbs of Buddhist meditation practice come together. Now, when the Buddha explains the first tetrad, he says one is aware of breathing out. One sits at the root of a tree, spine erect, bringing mindfulness of breathing to the forefront of one's attention. So he definitely encourages something that gives us a sense of being with nature, and the sense of what a tree is like. It's rooted in the ground, it's got a firm, upright trunk, and it's got a canopy to it. Yeah. Now this is clearly, it's just, we don't all live under trees. None of us do actually, I'd imagine, but still the image is there as a useful one to get the sense of that earth, ground, straightness of a tree, also something quite natural, and something that's got a spread canopy. We feel cool and shaded. And the Buddha spent most of his life living with trees. And he got enlightened under a tree, born under a tree, passed away under a tree. He loved being with trees. Because to him they seem to represent and maybe even bring up a certain quality of that natural, ground-rooted quality, steady, straight, upright, and also sheltering. And this is a nice thing to consider. Anyway, then breathing in, breathing out, and then contemplating the long, breathing in short, and then breathing in, experiencing the entire body, kaya, and then breathing in, breathing out, calming the kaya sankhara. So he refers this process, both accessing and calming the kaya sankhara, kaya body. Now in all this he doesn't actually mention being aware of one's nostrils or one's abdomen, diaphragm, or any particular place. There's no mention in the suttas of this, of him designating a particular piece of anatomy. But this is often what people will go to because it gives a sense of a definite focus. That's understandable, definite focus, then you can hold it there. But just bear in mind it isn't actually taught by the Buddha. It's maybe a skillful means. What is taught is this sense of the rhythm. Every phrase, every one of these tetrads is, the phrase is always, being aware of the entire body, one breathes in, being aware of the entire body, one breathes out. So you might say there's something rhythmic there. In and out, in and out, in and out. Now if you notice the sensations of the breathing in and breathing out, they're quite similar, but the energy of breathing in is quite distinct from the energy of breathing out. Energy of breathing in has a brightening quality to it, and the energy of breathing out has a cooling quality to it. So in daily life, if you're excited, you say, "Oh, I'll take a breather," and you breathe out. Or, "Oh, we've got to go to work now." Breathe in, here we go. Isn't that normal? When you're about to rise up to an occasion, you take an in-breath, psychologically, emotionally, and physically. And when you've finished your work, you take an out-breath, both physically and psychologically and emotionally. Correct? And this is just natural, isn't it? You probably never really thought that much about it. But the breathing out has a psychological effect. We think, done, enough. And the energy changes. So these energies then cross between the body and the mind. In this sense, the body and the mind are really very close to each other. And this on an energetic level. And the level or the experience of energy, the body and the mind are very closely interwoven. So we're not talking about the body as what we see with our eyes, the flesh body, but the subjective inner experience of the body. I can't see this body with my eyes. When I look at you, but I can certainly know it's here because I can feel a sense of the warmth and the breathing in and the breathing out. Now this body, this felt here and now energy body, is a key to steadying, understanding the mind. If my body feels tense and tight, I know my mind is tense and tight. It's a key to understanding the mind, and it's also a key to managing and handling the mind. And the point being, of course, that sometimes we don't really even know clearly what our mind is doing. We get so convinced of its opinions and views that we don't realize we're getting angry. I'm not being angry, I'm just being clear and firm and decisive, but I'm not angry. It sounds pretty angry to me. We can actually think we're not angry. The mind is able to delude us. This is avijja, ignorance. But you feel this tension in your throat and your chest and your fingernails tightening up. You're angry, or passionate. Your body knows it. So we need to know that. And also, now if you relax that, then you can't sustain the quality of passion or anger. You can't do it. If you relax your body, you can't do it. You can't have a dogmatic opinion if you relax your body and feel it. You say, well, maybe you're right, I don't know, it could be this is my way of seeing it, but you can't have that hard stuff if your body is relaxed. It's impossible to be miserable with a bright body. Like, you can't get depressed if your body's sitting up, open, you're breathing. You can't. To depress, you've got to sink down, flatten your chest, let your head come over and let your breath go stale. You sit like that, sooner or later you will get depressed. The energy goes down, you feel, what's the point anyway? It's all a waste of time, and meditation is not going to get you anywhere, let's face it. So your body energy goes like that, then you get depressed. So these are things that we can recognize. So this sense of really maybe finding it of paramount importance to steady and brighten the body energy. Now, where's this in the sutta? So when we look at breathing in, breathing out, that's certainly an energy form. Where of the entire body? So does this mean you're not looking at your fingernails or your feet? You're aware internally of this experience of the body as it breathes in and breathes out. And as you experience of the body as it breathes in, breathes out, it feels like a form. It's not a visual form, but it's a felt form. It feels warm, it feels expansive, and you can feel also whether it feels tense or relaxed or numb. So you get a sense of that, and then soothing, thoroughly sensitive to pati samvedi, thoroughly pati sam, completely vedi, feeling, thoroughly sensitive to the entirety of the body. One breathes in and breathes out. So just imagine widening the focus. So you're sensitive to the entire form as you breathe in and breathe out. And this will allow the energy to gently travel through the entire form, and it begins to both calm and steady. Now, if you notice, you'll find that when there are powerful emotions or a lot of thinking, what happens is you only have part of your body. And I would think that many people in a day, the part they experience, their body, they live up here, in the eyes and the forehead. You live here and you look around from here, and you realise there's something down there, a mouth in there, you put the coffee in, food in, and then the rest of it, well, we'll deal with that later. Because I'm up here, I live here, this little zone here. So, and then if I'm confused, I'm not aware of my legs. I'm probably aware of pulsing qualities around my heart. If I feel frightened, I feel tension in my belly. So that we feel very localized. These powerful emotions localize our body experience. They don't we lose the whole body, we lose the back, definitely. We lose the completeness of the out-breath, often the breath changes. So this instruction is to stay in the fullness of the body because it's less affected, less distorted by emotional, mental pressures. Now the body formation, or kaya sankhara, and in another sutta, I think the Mahavedala, or Chula Vedala Sutta, Dhammadina, the nun, says, mindfulness of breathing, breathing in, breathing out, this is the kaya sankhara. So this is what it means. And so how is that a bodily formation? Because breathing in and breathing out gives the experience of this subtle body. We breathe in, we feel it expand. We breathe out, we feel it soften. We breathe in, we feel it expand. We breathe out, we feel it soften. So this is an energy form, waves of energy. And when you consider it, this body, in order to breathe in and out, has to have sensitivity. It seems to know when it's had enough breathing in and breathe out. We don't have to think about it. So it's an intelligent energy. It both operates how we breathe, and the breathing itself gives energy. This is the kaya sankhara, that which generates energy and that which is moderates energy through breathing. So there's this quality then. And as you aware, if you break that word anapanasati down, yeah, ana, in, out, pana, breath. You look in the precepts, pana tipata, we'd refrain from destroying breathing creatures. So here, the breathing is glossed as living. So breathing in this respect means those creatures that have the sentient life force, we refrain from killing. Creatures that have this pana, which means the breathing sensitive life force. Yeah. And if you practice yoga, you might have heard of pranayama, which is, the same word, Sanskrit version. And this, you deliberately moderate your breathing to generate particular energies, to calm, to steady, to draw energy up your spine through breathing in and out. Clearly, the air does not travel up your spine, but the energy does. So in this, just bear in mind that in that Indian understanding, I think also the Chinese understanding, the Asian understanding, pana is an energy form. It's not just anatomy, it's an energy form that can be trained, moderated, and harnessed for very powerful spiritual purposes. Yeah. In the scripture then, this can be used, and it's being used, the process of feeling the entire body, steadying and smoothing out the energies in the body. If we use more ordinary language, you might say our nervous energy, whether we're jumpy, passionate, tense, or lack of energy. It steadies and smooths all that. So the Buddha says this you do, and then you move on to the qualities of piti, which is a joyful, rapturous experience that arises when the body's kaya sankhara has been steadied. And this is where the hindrances are put aside. So we experience the quality of piti, rapture, a brightened state, and then sukha, a happy, comfortable state. And with these, you also calm and steady the citta sankhara, the emotional energy. So body, mind, and sankhara meaning the formative quality. So with the body, it's a formative quality that began when we were born. So it's been conditioned, it's conditioned by birth. When you're in the womb, you weren't doing it. As you come out, you switch it on. It goes on, it's a creation, but it's created by life itself. And it goes on until finished, dead. That's the creation of sankhara. The citta sankhara is different. It's generated, and it's something we can moderate within this life. And in the Buddhist understanding, you can free the citta from sankhara without dying. In fact, this is the deathless. Now, we're perhaps going beyond the boundaries of this particular talk, but I just saying there are far-reaching implications in handling this sankhara quality, and the theme of anapanasati is you start handling the bodily sankhara, and this leads you into being able to handle the citta sankhara, which is the psychological or emotional, mental energies that could be so agitated and obsessive, calming, steadying them, and then purifying and releasing and developing wisdom from that. This, of course, is kind of stuff, themes of Buddhist talks and discussions and suttas of many kinds. I'd like to focus back on this quality of kaya sankhara and, lead back to why we're doing qigong. basically, personally speaking, because it was just something that somebody offered to show the monks. He thought it would be for their welfare, just open offer. And so he gave us some simple classes. And at that time I had so much back problems with my back that it was very difficult to sit straight. I was looking to have things to support my back. I was always having to go to the osteopath, get my back fixed. I had back fixed. I had some broken, bone breakage, and also some disc destruction, and also some twistedness in the back. Back is out of alignment, so the back was quite painful. And I'd sit, and hold it with determination, and sometimes it just couldn't. I'd have to lie on the floor. So then we started doing these qigong moves, and cut a long story short, one thing it's done is it's vastly improved my back. I'd sit fine, but so it vastly improved my back, my physical back, and that's one thing I'm very grateful for. So for that, one can sit upright, and you feel the upright posture is desirable as a process for allowing your breath to be very full and complete, and keeping your self awake. And this is a very mundane but necessary advantage. Further, began to contemplate the very quality of this subtle energy that arises, or one becomes more aware of, through some of these qigong moves, and then beginning to draw conclusions. So essentially the prana is energy, bodily energy, life force energy associated with breathing. Qi is an energy, a life force energy that affects the body. Maybe the two have similar or even the same thing. And so in my own experience, then this is something that I've begun to be more confident about. That the very energy that moves through the body is what is meant by prana. And breathing in and out is the central moderating force within that. So breathing in and out will moderate that, but before it can moderate it, the breathing in and out itself has to be made clear, bright, and complete. And in teaching mindfulness of breathing over many years, and listening to people in interviews, what people come back with, people say, yes, I guess I can't do it. My brain, and thinking all the time, I just feel so tense and tight. I'm trying to focus on this point in my nostril, I can't find it at all. I can't meditate. I can't do it. I tried really hard to do it. They're getting more and more tense. And, I just give up. I can't manage it. Every time I was breathing okay until I started being mindful of it. I could breathe in and out quite normally. Then I started being mindful of it. Oh no. Everything became tight, constricted. I felt pain. I felt uncomfortable. I felt stressed. And, surely this can't be right. I mean, mindfulness of breathing is supposed to be, and the Buddha's saying, I call this a comfortable abiding, a pleasant abiding. It makes me feel fresh. My eyes feel good. This can't be the same. What's happening? What's happening? The mind is affecting the breath. Before we brought it to our attention, breathing wasn't a problem. We had other problems also, which were also because of our attention. Thinking about this, thinking about that, attitudes. And very often for people these days, the work mind rushing forward. The work mind determined to get things done. The work mind anxious about not getting it good enough. The work mind desperate in a hurry to achieve results. The work mind tightening up to make sure they got it exactly the way it should be. The work mind, stress, 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 stress. And the mind gets conditioned into that kind of behavior. Anything we think is important, anything we think we really should achieve, the work mind gets hold of it. Yeah? So you were breathing okay till you started to think it was important. And you thought it was going to give you good results. Important, good results, go to work. Right? I mean, yeah, so it is important. We do want good results. Yeah? There is certainly a process and a progress in this, so it must be the work, does it? I don't think so. You know, now you look in the time of the Buddha's living under trees, living out in nature, his followers are living out in the forests and the jungle. Maybe some of them have a cow. They're not going to work. Even when they do work, it's like, what time? They don't have clocks. They're not commuting. They don't jump in their cars and commute to work. They don't have the bosses who are going to fire them. They're not looking at productivity. They just grow some rice and, get a few chickens maybe. And then the summoners, they aren't even doing that. They're just living out under trees. So isn't that work mind? They can certainly put energy in, but it's not that same compulsive, tight, up in your head state of the worker who lives up behind their eyes, in their forehead, looking at their mobile phones, looking at their cars, looking at their computers, looking at the screens, up in their head. Yeah? This is the work mind, it's up here. So then we think, okay, anapanasati, right, let's get to work on that. And we go up to our heads, tighten up the brain, tighten up the mind, tighten up the face, we think this is called concentration. Well, the English word concentration can be applied to that, but that's not samadhi. There's no piti, happiness, sukha, ease, comfort. That's not there. Yeah. And it is sad because there's a true sincerity and a true determination to cultivate, but we're doing it with the wrong energy. Right idea, right theory, right aspiration, wonderful resolve, but we're using the wrong energy. Now the Buddha's saying there's a natural energy that happens by itself. Breathing in, breathing out happens by itself. Breathing out happens by itself. Breathing in happens by itself. There's an energy flow there. This is what we should get in touch with a kind of quality of attention that can maintain that focus. Yeah. And it's not a focus up in our forehead, which is where we so often assume it should be. We call it watching the breath. Watching the breath. I've never seen a single breath. Maybe on a very cold morning you might see a bit of mist, but most of the time I've never seen a breath. And I've been practicing this for years. And when I look in the sutta, the Buddha never says watch the breath either. He says be mindful of breathing in and breathing out. Mindful not of a process of breathing and breathing out. There is another way that we could attend to that, rather than with this idea of up in your head, looking at it with your eye, with your tightening your attention. And yes, there is. Now when you cultivate Qigong, you take a standing position, is the normal, standing like a tree. You bring your awareness particularly down to your feet, your ankles, and build it up. And you gradually spread your awareness from the soles of the feet up through the body, through the spine, through the trunk, into there till you cover the entire body, is held in alignment. Call it balance. Yeah? So you're definitely attentive. Yeah? You're fully aware. Your mind isn't wobbling, jumping around, dithering, confused. It's actually firmly based on the entire body as an energy form, and we focus on the quality of balance. Balance. Yeah. Now you can't do that with a thought. You can't think balance, but your body can feel it. You can sense it. So you realize this body is sensitive to quality of balance, which itself is rather pleasant because there's no stress in balance. Balance means the absence of stress. Yeah? We're not inclining to left or right, forward or backward. It's free of bodily bias. It's free of pressure. It's as stress-free as you can get when you balance. And there's an energy there that becomes apparent that's holding your body up. You learn to relax as much of your muscles as possible, and you just feel yourself being held. This is called standing like a tree. And the awareness is spread over the entire body. And as you stand like that, sustaining that awareness, there is a way of holding attention that is not narrow, it's not constrictive, it's not conducive to stress, and yet is very carefully held. And use a wide focus. Now within that, as you stand with that, you can begin to experience, within that you sense this rhythm starting to, well, there's breathing. It's a soft, rhythmic process. Yeah. And you feel the energy of it, vitality of it. And the way that the whole body can feel that. It's no longer so constricted. So this gives a very good way, in my experience, of both improving bodily posture, improving changing one's idea or impression of what the body is about. So it's not just this thing we see with our eyes, or it's not the flesh body, it's an energy body. It's something we begin to see is quite natural. It's not mentally derived, it's not an opinion or a view, it's neither something we feel proud of or worried about. It's free of those mental proclivities. It happens by itself. It's naturally refreshing, and it's naturally sustaining, and it's naturally calming, and it's naturally clearing from tension, dullness, restlessness, hindrances. The energies are the hindrances. When the body is bright and open like that, hindrances find it very difficult to get in. And so you cultivate like that. Some of the simple Qigong movements that one can cultivate. I'm not here to teach Qigong, but just to mention, the connections. The result of it is that the body loses its tensions and congestions. It becomes a happy place for one's awareness to sit, and breathing happens to you quite naturally. In other words, you don't have to search for it, you find it. It comes to you. It comes into your awareness. Yeah? You don't have to decide where to focus, you feel it. You feel it as it's happening. As it's happening, and you feel that, you've trained your mind to be more receptive to a natural process than proactive to create something. And this means that the mental obstructions and the mental proclivities and particularly the ones we experience as the mindset that I call the work mind, these are laid aside, and instead we feel the natural harmony, peace and vitality that the Buddha must have experienced in his own process of awakening. So then we are truly breathing like a Buddha. Yeah. How do you think the Buddha breathed? Totally focus on breathing out. Just can't get this breath. Or is it just, open, chest open, shoulders relaxed, enjoying the bliss of breathing in and breathing out. Nature manifesting in this way. So I've talked quite a lot, so I'll pause now and offer this for your reflection. And so let yourself take a few moments. I'm not in a particular hurry, and if you sit quietly you might have some questions or things you'd like me to explore or comment on, and then I'll be happy to field your queries and inquiry.
Thank you, Luang Por. Does anyone have any question? No?
Gentleman at the back there.
Okay. Hang on, let me come to you.
Good evening, Venerable. Welcome to Singapore.
Thank you.
I was thinking that, when I was working, there was I retired about 2 years ago. When I was working, I'm doing a sort of meditation, and then the thoughts come in. Most of the teachers say, you let the thoughts flow. You don't interrupt it. But some of the thoughts have the solution to my problems, the office problem. So don't you think it's good to engage the thoughts and, to understand more of the solution to the problem?
If that's what you're looking for, yeah.
It comes naturally.
Well, you find also that with you trying to figure something out, it's best just to put it to one side and sit quietly, and then you might find that the answer comes by itself.
Okay.
In terms of your thinking mind.
Yeah.
But you'll also notice that even as you get that understanding, you think, oh, let's figure that out. You find, oh, there's something else I need to think about. Ah, what about that? So thinking itself it's a partial solution to problems, but the thinking process eventually becomes a problem as a process. That is, it's not satisfactory.
So the idea is a sort of observe the thoughts and let it pass, and in that process, it brings you to the natural self, or sort of thing like that, right?
I would say you have to put a little more into it than that. Certainly, just taking the pressure off by not struggling with thought or trying to think something. It's good to take the pressure off the mind. Having taken the pressure off the mind, there's a possibility of, okay, selecting, why don't I incline my mind towards this? So then this is where we pick up something like breathing in and breathing out, or the sensations of the body.
Okay.
Because this will help to both strengthen one's capacity to focus, and also establish the mind on a set of experiences that are more stabilizing than thought. And that stabilizing has a calming effect. So if we choose to find some stronger calming effect, then you need to go to the body.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we relieve some of the pressure of the thought, you can direct yourself back to your body, but it's by asking the question, how do I know I have a body? How do I feel my body right now? Or even, am I breathing in and breathing out? How is the breathing now? So that question points your attention back to this body, and then can you stay there? So this is called vitakka. Vitakka, to point your attention. And the other quality that is conducive to meditation is called vichara, which means having pointed your attention to the body or the breathing, the next question is, how does it feel? What's it like? So point, where is it? Vichara, how is it? Point, that's vitakka, where is it? And then, how is it? That's vichara. And these two give the mind something to to get involved with, yeah, because otherwise it will get involved with planning, work and things like that, which can have its uses, but there's a time which you want to say enough of that, yeah, because this goes on. This, applying myself to this, will bring me to another domain of experience. Not just my thinking, working life, but this is going to take me to something that's about birth and death, you know, and something that's of a more long-term relevance. And I'll train my attention in this way.
Where am I? Another question, yeah. At one stage when I was doing these meditations, I was initially a bit uncomfortable, you know, a sort of a upset stomach or something. And then I thought, I got this. I noticed my heart was beating very erratically. So I thought of calming down my heartbeat to do meditation. So while I'm doing it, suddenly I feel that I'm disappearing. So I got frightened. I shook myself up. So is that a sort of negative way of
Doesn't sound like an experience that I'd recommend.
Sure.
How did you calm your heart beat?
I mean, the normal way, you just, focus on your breath,
And you felt yourself disappearing?
Right.
Was nothing there, or what? Was it just the sense of fear was there? The emotional state?
You don't feel yourself there,
Uh-huh. And so, yeah.
So you feel disappearing something.
Something disappears. And what doesn't disappear?
But normally when you do the meditations, you are aware of your body.
Right.
Right. You're sitting there, you're aware of your body.
Mm-hmm.
But in this case, I got this feeling that, the senses of awareness is not there. So I got frightened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, practically it's good to, first of all, establish your attention on fairly obvious sensations, such as the sensation of the pressure of your legs on the floor or feet on the chair. Something you can easily feel that sense. And because as you begin to find a way of relaxing your thoughts, then your normal person, your normal self, isn't engaged. And so that loss of apparent self can make one feel anxious or disoriented. And this disorientation brings up a particular nervous response, an energetic response that's further destabilizing. And then you get an emotional state, and then we can even lose awareness of our body. So it's good to establish a strong foundation on awareness of the body in a very accessible form. So sensations of sitting, and using vitakka vichara, because these two mean the mind is now firm and clear. So it's still the mental attention is also something one can feel confident about. It's not just you're definitely consciously there doing it, and you have something you can definitely access even as your emotional states or your normal preoccupations pass away. What you find is you can get on perfectly well without yourself. You don't need it there all the time.
Would you recommend that a person should not do meditation when he's sick or something like that? Sick or fever, or he's sick, not feeling well?
Well, when one is healthy or unhealthy, one should always be attentive and sustain mindfulness.
Okay, thank you.
But you find different object of mindfulness, something else. So if you're sick, you're mindful of unpleasant feelings coming and going. You're mindful of low energy. You're mindful of, unhappy mind states, but you're mindful of that. Because if we can only meditate when we're feeling good and healthy, it's not going to be. We're not going to do a lot of meditation. And remember, one of the most important times to be mindful is when you're dying, when you don't feel good at all. Most people. But then, if you sustain mindful awareness of that, then you can gradually learn to let go of that which needs to be let go of, purify the mind of distress, grudges, anxiety, and focus the mind on gratitude and release. And this is something to cultivate in one's death, one's dying. Then one's dying will not be a bad one, it will be a good one. Since we're all going to have one, we might as well make it as good as possible. So sickness is like a dress rehearsal. And you want to go through the rehearsals plenty of times till you get good at it. So you're ready. So you're doing the rehearsal. So learn how to sustain mindfulness when one is sick. But certainly when you're sick, you don't want to be, you have to be very natural. You don't want to be trying to create some weird mind state, because this could be extremely disruptive and actually unhelpful for one's physical condition. When you're sick, it's very important that your mind state be as pure and as helpful and as kind and as clear as possible. Then this definitely has a beneficial effect on one's physical health and one's emotional health. So, in some ways, being sick is the most important that you meditate, because it really will support you. But then make it that your meditation is supportive, not something that creates more stress with.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome.
Thanks for your question. Anyone else have a question?
Lady over here.
Sorry, I think it's good to have mic because there are people sitting on the other side of the room.
Thank you. In the Chinese Mahayana teaching, there were masters who taught the recitation of the name Amitabha. Right? There was this particular one, the late Venerable Yin Guang. he taught the recitation of Amitabha three times left, right, and then 4 times kind of like, in front. That is also a form of meditation. What is your opinion of that? Does not, of course, the Buddha mentioned that there are many types of meditation. Breathing being the easiest because it's in our body. But the other method, what is your comment on that?
Well, essentially, the Buddha's concern was to put an end to suffering, to liberate our mind. So then it's up to us to be responsible for that task, to do that, and to know what we're doing, and to know it in ourselves. So this is the most important thing. So I really only speak with confidence about practices that I have trained in. And so I haven't trained in that practice, so I couldn't really speak with confidence about it. Whether, not saying it's right or wrong, because I don't know it. So I don't like to have an opinion about something I haven't done. But I would say, if you'd like me to comment, I would say that certainly any time you focus on one thing and repeat it, that is the principle of meditation. You focus on one thing and you repeat it repeatedly, whether it's breathing in and out, or walking up and down, or using a mantra. You focus on one theme and you sustain it and you repeatedly do that. So therefore the mind picks up the quality of that theme. Yeah? It picks up the quality of it. So the very act of meditating has a certain calming effect because the mind is held and sustained. The very act of doing it has a certain steadying effect. Now, secondary to that, the mind also picks up the qualities, the specific qualities, not just of the act of meditating, but of what the meditation object contains. So breath contains a particular quality of natural energy. So the mind picks up the effects of natural energy. Yeah. Now we might meditate on loving kindness, whereas I focus on people, myself, other people I know, present, future or past. That act of focusing has a certain steadying effect. The intention to generate goodwill brings a natural quality in the mind of goodwill. Yeah, so then the mind absorbs that quality and is refreshed and brightened by that, discards ill will, negativity, grudge, doubt, fear. Now if you say this is purely speculation, because I haven't done it, if you focus on what Amita Buddha means, the bliss Buddha of the Western paradise offering salvation to everyone, that seems to be a very inspiring idea. So that maybe bring a quality of inspiring, gladdening energy into your mind. Yeah. But with all of it, we realize whether it's breathing, focusing my mind on breathing, focusing my mind on death, focusing my mind on loving kindness, focusing my mind on mindfulness of breathing. This focusing has been constructed, conditioned, and done. It is not an ultimate truth, because I've created it. Therefore, I use it to discard what should be discarded. I use it to discard grudge, ill will, bigotry, agitation, fear, negativity, craving, hatred, desire. I use it to discard that. Having discarded it, I then use it further to discard my opinions, my views about this, that and the other, who's right and who's wrong. I discard that. Having discarded that, then I think what needed to be done has been done. I can now discard this.
Can I have another question? So with regard to that, with what you said, that you use what you have experienced to disregard, all the negativities. How does one use that to deal with one's ego?
What ego?
Particularly, if someone is of, let's say, for instance, if someone, if you are of a certain position, so how could the use of that, the breathing, to deal with ego?
Well, just bear in mind, there's really no such thing as an ego. I don't think there's a thing as an ego, but there's egotism, which could be conceit, pride, thinking one is better than others. The Buddha said there are different kinds of ways of conceiving oneself: better than others, worse than others, the same as others. So this is what we call ego, is the conceiving of oneself in some state or another, one sense of status. But it's actually not an entity, it's an activity, habitual activity. Yeah? So, what happens to the king when he goes to the toilet? Is he still a king? Or is he just, puts his crown down, Well, it's not very kingly, is it? So, So the sense of where breathing can help is that poor people can breathe just as good as rich people. There's no status in that. People who are not so pretty can breathe just as good as people who are very beautiful. There's no status, no sense of egotism in it. And the more modest and humble and open one is, then the more rich and full the breathing goes. So it goes against the way of the ego, which is I am better, I am this, I'm just this. That's all contradictory to the nature of breathing. The less self you have in it, the better it gets. The less habits you have, the better it gets. The less you think about yourself as being something, or even being nothing, the better it gets. The less you self-concerned, self-conscious, the better it gets. So this gently disbands the energies and the habits that build up this sense of ego. Realizing there never was one in the first place. It's just something that's being woven together through fear, anxiety, I'm not good enough, I've got to be better, and I've got to make sure I'm okay, I don't want anybody to see me in this way, I must look, this fear, anxiety, which is often a source of why people seek status, because they don't have confidence in themselves as they are. They have to become something special. That's suffering. You're already fine. You already have the potential for great beauty and strength. What do you need an ego for?
Thank
so
you.
This naturalness of the breathing helps us to return to a fundamental sanity and health in many respects. Yes.
Sukihonto Longpo, and welcome to Singapore. I was contemplating, should I ask the question? And since the mic come to the sister behind me, I thought maybe it's my karma to ask the question or to explore. At the beginning of the talk, I thought energy means fire. But at the center of the talk, when Longpo actually mentioned that when the energy rupture, you can then achieve piti and sukha. Then I thought, maybe energy refers to chitta. So after that, when Longpo linked energy to chi, then I thought, oh no, energy is actually wind. So or which is which, so I get confused. And then at the end of the day, I thought whether it's fire, it's wind, or it's cheetah, it's all a living thing. So I'm a bit confused actually, sorry, because I only picked up Buddhism for about 2.5 years, so I'm really confused with, sorry.
Yeah, well, if you see, like we have, for example, like electricity. So is this like electricity? Sure. Then we have air conditioning. Is this air conditioning electricity? Sure. Then maybe you have a refrigerator. Is it electricity? Yeah, certainly. Then maybe you have a TV. Is that electricity? Yeah. Why are they so different? Because they're plugging into different devices. So they manifest in different ways. So energy can manifest as fire, it can manifest as wind, it can manifest as water, soft, cooling, watery energy. It can manifest even as earth, solid, forceful energy. It can stirs up thought, then it's thought energy. It stirs up emotions, it's emotional energy. It powers the body, it's bodily energy. So this basic life force, this fundamental resource of energy, can manifest in different channels or different aspects, bodily, emotional, and conceptual thinking. It can manifest in different qualities, such as soft, cooling, or intense, fiery. It can manifest as light. It can manifest as something misty, soft and suffusive. So it can manifest in different ways. Is that any use to you?
Living thing.
Huh?
So energy is actually an impermanent living thing.
Oh yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And there's energy which is associated with doing things. So if you're familiar with simple Taoist yin-yang, then you have the yang energy is very much the doer, the harder, the driven, and the yin energy is the receptive. And then energy can also be receptive. It means we're sensitive, we're open. That is also an energy form. Try to go to the experience of any of those qualities, and you'll find in receptivity there's a spacious energy, which means everything is inclining towards opening, listening deeply, tuning in. There's an energy there. When you stand up, and you find the balance coming into your body, feeling balanced, and that's an energy. Balance is something is finely bright and steady. It's not hard, it's not running, it's not fiery, but it's another spacious energy. Energy that reduces pressure. Normally when we use the word energy, we assume it's something that exerts pressure. Energy is some degree of power. That's part of our problem, I suggest, in that as soon as we think of energy, we think, oh right, more, push it, go for it, faster, But this is a tendency, in human beings. But there's also the energy that is receptive. And in meditation, it's important to remember both of those qualities. And when you practice Qigong, you have to cultivate both of those qualities. The receptive is where the wisdom comes from. The wisdom comes from deep listening and sensitivity and spaciousness. The ideas come from somewhere else. But the wisdom is that Yeah. An energy that receives, sensitizes, opens to cooling. There's an energy there. So for meditation, that's one of the features of it, is the receptive. By and large, as people practice, the receptive gets bigger and the active gets smaller.
Precisely, Luang Por. So my next question is, I think I sort of got it. So my next question is, when you go into jhana and the energy gets increased and the heat increase, so how do you actually continue sitting where you feel the heat and is the kind of burning and heat sensation that is pretty uncomfortable? But if you want to continue sitting, how should I continue to sit then? How should I reduce that kind of energy or contemplate or do anything so that I can continue to sit?
Well, heating up is not a factor of jhana.
So when you sit and you feel the nimitta, and then you continue to concentrate on the breathing, and when you feel that your citta is actually coming in and you're concentrating, and you're not affected by even the thunder and the heavy rain outside. It's very loud thundering and all that, but you're not affected. And how do you explain that when you see the brightness? And when you first see it, you have joy, but after that you don't have anymore. You just concentrate, and you are aware of that kind of concentration only, and it get hotter, and so much so that you cannot continue. So what kind of stage is this actually?
You're putting too much effort into it.
I think so too.
Yeah. So one needs to take one's time and be more comfortable, and let the... you see, it sounds as if you're being a little bit too proactive, which is admirable in many ways. It means you're very sincere and dedicated, but you always have to trust the process and let yourself be more receptive. And particularly finding harmony and balance. So if one is feeling a lot of heat, then the fire element is becoming too dominant. Therefore we need to balance it with the water element, which is much more suffusive and less intense.
So how should the water come in when you're at that stage? Because you cannot move your concentration away from your breathing. That way you will lose your citta, you will lose the brightness actually. So I cannot be contemplating at a fire at this time.
Do you mean you cannot or you don't want to?
I'm not sure, I've not tried that. It's too hot, so I just let go.
Well, before it gets too hot, if you know you have that tendency, as you contemplate breathing, breathe like water. It's the out breath, if it suffuses, you can breathe like water. There's an energy that is, particularly the out breath, has a certain sense of draining. And it can be helpful to visualize in that sense. If you have a tendency towards fire and intensity, it would be helpful to counteract that with a tendency to widen your awareness, to widen it, because if you constrict, you'll naturally heat up. If you widen your awareness to the entire breath body as you're breathing in and out, and keep it quite wide, and let it come to you. So normally we might be focusing as if we're moving in to an object, and we call that concentration. But there is also a concentration which is about holding a wider boundary, and instead of moving in, sitting back as if the breath is bathing us.
Thank you. Do we have time for more questions?
We do.
No more questions?
No, I'm fine, thank you.
May I ask this question? When you say about breathing, okay, when you have your energy going through your body, you can feel it. Let's say you feel it, but what I meant is that is this called vipassana, when you feel the feeling going right through the air, going through your body?
No.
No.
That's not vipassana, no.
Mm-hmm. And then when you feel the air going through your body, like this morning I went attend your qigong. When you notice that you say to breathe in and out and following the movement. So when you feel the air is going through, what does it signify? That their energy is going through? And I don't understand is that when you say that it's not notice the inside of your body.
No.
That means that the how to say it? When you notice that the air is going through your body, then your air going through your body, then you go flowing through your body. Is it that you make your body relax, and then your before that, then after that you would go for your meditation?
Yeah. Or even what meditation, you see, if you're doing that, you're sustaining mindfulness. And then you can be mindful doing that, and then when you've finished it, you can sit down and continue being mindful, and you can call it meditation. But it's just the same process.
It reminds me of one meditation that is Goenka. So Goenka is also through the breathing and the air going through your body. So what's the difference?
I don't know, because I don't know the Goenka system.
Oh, because I heard about it and then tried to experience it, but I want to see whether there's any difference.
Well, it doesn't really, I don't know how important that is. The most important thing is that you find something that helps you to free yourself from stress and pressure and gets the body to feel comfortable. This then acts as a helpful foundation. This we call samatha, basically, that which steadies, calms, makes you feel a pleasant place, pleasant abiding. And from there you can develop vipassana, which means you begin to notice how momentary experience is, how it's fluctuating, and also any sense of what one is becomes an obstacle, so you begin to release this view, I am. And this is, so that's very, very condensed, that's samatha vipassana. Vipassana is a wisdom teaching and samatha is an energy teaching. And the two help each other. Qigong is an energy practice. Mindfulness of breathing starts off as an energy practice and becomes a wisdom practice. But still, even when you're practicing with energy, you have to be quite wise about it. So you have to do it carefully, so that you're not getting too much energy or imbalanced energy or fire energy, or something that's not proper. So handling energies wisely produces a suitable basis for the full realization of wisdom, which is called insight. This breathing through your body is just a figurative way of experiencing freedom from internal pressure, congestion, tension, or dullness. And so then this makes the body then becomes a very steady and bright realm, a bright object, a bright state that your mind can rest in to further eliminate hindrances and obstructions.
But when you watch the energy going through, is it your own perception?
Well, it's not anybody else's perception, is it?
But your perception of the air flowing through, but can be our perception.
It's your perception, yeah.
Yeah.
You have a perception of it.
Yeah.
It's an aggregate. So there's the rupa aggregate, and energy is a subtle kind of rupa form. It definitely is a thing, it's not just an idea. It's a physical, subtle physical form called rupa. Whenever rupa arises in consciousness, when it's conscious of it, perception arises. The mind, oh, it feels like that. Then the Vedana, pleasant, arises. Now that's the way that is. Sankhara, which is the other aggregate, arises dependent on the perception. It takes the perception as a basis and then it gets activated. So if we cultivate clear, calm perception, then the sankharas of agitation don't get going. If we cultivate a bodily perception based upon the body, the sankharas associated with mental proliferation about the past and future don't get going. So we use one set of perceptions to counteract the mind's tendency to go to other perceptions, such as perceptions of future, perceptions of past, perceptions of oneself, and perceptions of others. And really, if we look at those four, that covers everything. Future, past, self, and others. Is there anything else to think about? Now, if you take those away, isn't that relief? So we do this through this embodiment experience.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes. Gentleman, a few rows back.
Thank you, Bhante. I would like to clarify actually two things. First is when you say the body is bright, do you mean figuratively or literally? That there's a mental image of the body?
It's more like, it could be visual. The way that because the way that our awareness interprets things is often through either visual limiters, such as brightness, or tactile limiter, such as space or softness, or even auditory limiter, such as silence and subtle sound. So any of those, but the very word bright can mean an emotion, it can mean light, it can mean a general state of feeling free from heaviness, light. So the body can be any of those.
Your light in this context, when you use the word light, means less weight, less heavy, not the literal shining light.
Well, when say, when things feel less heavy and dense, then one can experience that as a certain emotional brightness or even a visual brightness, quasi-visual, not with the outer eyes, but with the inner eye. It's as if the nervous system is refreshed, and it tends then to activate subtle qualities of light. But it could do that. But the general word, when I'm meaning the word bright, it means it covers any of that. Emotional brightness, visual brightness, psychological brightness, bodily brightness.
Okay, thank you, Bhante. Also, another question to clarify is, the Buddha, before his enlightenment, he has already mastered arupa jhanas. So before arupa jhana, he must have already mastered the first 4 jhanas. So in the Nikayas, or even in the canonical commentaries and so on, is there any reference to what are the what are the object that he used to enter first jhana?
No, I haven't found any. I haven't exhaustively studied these. I haven't actually found, again, I could be wrong, I haven't found him referring to the first jhana. I found him referring to the arupa, but not to the rupa.
That's in the Nikaya, there's no mention on his practice of first jhana?
I haven't found it. It seems that, you see, the quality of jhana means to absorb. Now, it's because arupa jhana are not bodily. It could be the case that he had skills that could go to more focusing on mental states and eliminating certain mental conditions without referring to the body, since they were very strongly anti-body. That's a possibility. So there is, so just remember the word jhana, it means absorb, and there are skillful jhanas and unskillful jhanas. Jhana is not necessarily always considered to be skillful. Yeah. So, for example, Devadatta, he was able to attain jhanas, but not a good man. The very fact, absorbing, like mindfulness, you see, mindfulness, we think, oh, mindfulness is great. Well, there's such a thing as wrong mindfulness. It means mindful of the wrong objects. I could conceive that such a thing as wrong jhana, absorption into the wrong objects, the wrong states, or states that aren't necessarily wrong, but are not pertinent to realization. Now, this is just my opinions, because it doesn't seem to, I haven't found in my readings a thorough exploration of this topic. What exactly was the Buddha meditating on before he had his awakening? And I don't see him talking about it that much, but I do read him talking about these experiences of arupa, which he accomplished. But for example, he started doing things like suppressing the breathing. So it may have been that the arupas he was attaining through a kind of suppressive meditation, suppressing the body and going into a mental state, like a sort of hypnosis. Yeah.
Okay, because I was actually about to ask, how was his instruction on the Anapanasati different from the way he has practiced it before he attained enlightenment? But apparently there was no mention about it in the Nikayas.
Well, there's not much mention of how he was practicing before his enlightenment.
Okay, thank you, Bhante.
So everything is really just interpretation or deduction, because he doesn't say very much about it. Apart from these arupa states, and also apart from his forceful asceticism.
Thank you, Bhante.
Yeah, now the arupas are not, as far as I can understand, are not an absolute requirement for liberation. They're possibilities that can arise from fourth jhana. One can enter into, but you don't need to. The main thing to free oneself is from the asava, corruptions, mental becoming, sensuality, ignorance. These are the main things you liberate from. And it's even said that a certain level of jhana is actually, you can't do this. So what is called the eighth, or the eighth, neither perception nor non-perception is not a suitable base for liberation. It's too refined, you can't develop wisdom from it. So, So I think, first, second jhana, it's pretty dang good. Don't need to go into these arupas.
Venerable, coming back to your experience of Qigong, can I say that before you practice the Qigong, you already have the Qi? Everybody has got a Qi. Yeah. So after you practice the Qigong, does it mean that you have already mastered the Qi and direct the Qi to whatever beneficial to your body or something like that?
I hope I didn't give that suggestion. I think to say I'd mastered anything would be a sign of arrogance. I've certainly got a better handle on it than I used to have, but I've not even used it that completely. There are people who dedicate their lives to practicing Qigong. Those are masters. They've dedicated their lives. They do amazing things. Amazing feats, but I don't. I just use it modestly, just to support my meditation.
Okay, thank you.
Some of them. Well, what challenges? If you have challenges, I've probably had exactly the same ones.
I mean, from a novice monk, someone who has not, no idea about Buddhism, starting from there to where you are now. So, in the beginning of your practice as a monk, all the challenges in your practice as in meditation.
Obsessive thinking, obviously. Obsessive thinking. Criticism, self-critical. You ever get that? Obsessive thinking, self-critical. Speculative fantasies, daydreams, fantasizing this, that, and the other. Desire, craving. You ever get any of that? Ill will, impatience, sleepiness, opinionatedness, criticizing others, even more impatience, impatient with myself for being so impatient. When can I ever learn to be patient? Judgmental about myself, judgmental of others. So these are sort of things you face, challenges you face. Sadness, depression, loneliness, stuck on my own, sitting in this kuti, all on my own, hour in, day after day. Nobody loves me. Lonely. These are the kind of things that go on. Getting stuck, obsessed with cloth, kind of cloth. Obsessed with food. Obsessed with cloth and food. Obsessed with building projects. Obsessed with designing things in my mind. Yeah. Obsessed with writing ideas about Dhamma. Having these great ideas about Dhamma, getting obsessed with them. Mental obsession. So all these are sorts of things that come up. Trying too hard to get it all right. Perfectionism with its critical qualities. Depression. being just, world is miserable, fed up. What's the point of it all? Depressed. Yeah. What's the point? It's all miserable world of hatred and delusion. What's the point of being around? Depressed. So these are things that can happen. Generally, you know, it's very human. I think our own experience is just about everything that a human being can experience, because it's all coming from the same place. Yeah. And so with that, you just, one thing you begin to recognize, you really, nothing surprises you anymore because you felt it. Think, oh yeah, that was, and one becomes more compassionate, just recognizing these universal qualities that contaminate us. And one becomes more compassionate, and then you feel much more grateful. Any time any of it stops, you feel very grateful. And, you know, and that gratitude and compassion, you think, this is good, I'm pleased. And if this continues, and this theme continues, then I can see that these other problems, they will pass too. And one feels inspired and practices with joy. Anytime these seemingly stuck, obsessive, really embarrassing, stupid things that you've been stuck with for years, seemingly can't get rid of, whenever one of them begins to fade out, you go, oh, yes, if that can go, then maybe this can go too. So you feel, along with the struggle, the challenges, you feel the blessings. Every time a challenge is finally met, and you realize you have to be challenged, because if you want to get through this stuff, you have to meet all your obsessions, all your obsessive tendencies, and that's the riddle. That's the puzzle you have to solve in this lifetime. So bring it on. And that's kind of, if you want to, like, that's what, not just monks, but anybody who really wants to practice, you put yourself in a situation where you've got to face it, because there's no escape. And that is the essential thing of being a monk. It's not about being status, it's about commitment. And you stay with it, and you stay with it. When you're fed up with it, you stay with it. And that's how you meet challenges, that's how you overcome it.
Good evening, Ajahn.
Yeah?
Yeah. Good evening, Ajahn.
Good evening.
I have a question. During meditation, when awareness has been established and vichara and vitaka are applied accordingly, certain kind of realizations arises.
Sorry, visualizations.
Realizations.
Realizations.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
How do we know that those realizations are the right realizations or the right panya according to Dhamma, and not the realizations that arises out of delusions or preconceived ideas?
Well, if they fascinate you, so you start to feel you know something, then they're wrong. So if they lead to the ending of suffering and stress, even momentarily, and there's a sense of space or openness or relief, one feels, oh, then this surely is in line with what the Buddha's teaching. If they just lead to think, oh, that's wonderful, this, that, then even if they have a certain truth to them, we're getting a little intoxicated. So one needs to, who is this? Who is realizing this? Yeah. Do you want more of it? That's called tanha. Now you think you are something because of this? This is called bhava. Bhava tanha. So just let them come and go. Realization that all even realizations are If they are that which one can witness or be aware of, they are subject to change. And you let them go. Something has probably released itself, something has been understood. You don't need to hold on to the thought or the impression, just let that. It's a purification process. So I think that's enough for tonight. I think we've realized something.